So for this Christmas's bonus objective, I asked you to vote on a bad Christmas movie. And of the ones I selected, this one made the cut. It's the 1991 film, The Christmas Tree. Information on this movie is scarce, and it doesn't help that there are 3 other movies that have the exact same name. But from what I can gather, this was written by Nels Christensen and directed by Flammarion Ferreira. If the latter sounds familiar, it's because he was an art director for some sequel movies to The Land Before Time. But he's working in this movie as a director, and this is the only time he'll serve that role. And for good reason. So let's take a look at The Christmas Tree and see why it shouldn't have been made. Ooh, flashy title card. But that's the high point of this film's animation. It's only going to get worse from here. Anyway, we open with narration about an orphanage, some children, and a pine tree. Now, about that animation.
Of the evil rules of a lady named Mrs. Mavilda. The little ones were always forced to do heavy work by the wicked woman.
It's weird. I mean, I'm not expecting top-tier animation and design, even if there are some good moments. But I could forgive that if the story was well written, and it isn't. We learn that Mavilda is forcing the kids to do hard labor. They get very little for their troubles, and she is able to hide these abuses in front of the mayor. What really gets me about her is just how cartoonishly evil she is. There's no motivation behind any of this behavior. And seriously, is she going to eat all that fancy food? Oh wait, she also spends the funds playing poker. She sucks at the game, as far as we can tell, but she doesn't seem to care, not in the slightest. In fact, she later says this.
Here goes the children's money again.
It's like she takes pleasure in ruining the lives of these children just because. Like she gets a high from doing so. So the only thing the kids have for comfort is the pine tree, which they named Mrs. Hopewell.
Yes, Hopewell, because the kids believed that the tree was magical. It somehow was going to bring them a mom and a dad to adopt and take them away from the unbearable Mrs. Mavilda.
If the town really cared that much for these kids, they would have done something by now. There's also a dog that the kids play with named Licorice. He's normally hidden from Mavilda, since she tends to catch him sometimes. And I guess he's called that because he has black fur. So he'd be Black Licorice? So choppy.
Well, let's begin our story now.
You mean we weren't already in the story? Anyway, we cut over to this family of 4 who have moved to this town for a better life. But because they don't have a home to live in, they're forced to live separately. The husband, Ray, can live in a boarding house near his workplace, while his wife and children have to live in the orphanage. The mother, named Judy, even gets to be Mavilda's assistant.
You come from the mayor's.
I know. The mayor just called.
I'd better go now. Take good care of yourself and the children, Judy. I will be back before Christmas.
Don't worry, Ray. We're gonna do just fine.
Wow, that is some really stiff acting. Even cardboard cutouts can exude more emotion than this. This could also be because all the credited actors here aren't seen anywhere else. Except for Maki Becker, who appeared in an episode of Solved. That's it. In any case, Mavilda prepares Judy for her new role. Now, I don't know if the big bad agreed to take on an assistant, but if she did, then that's really stupid of her. The only reason why she's been getting away with her abuse is because she was facing so little supervision. What if the children report her misdeeds to the mother, who then passes on that info to the authorities? I mean, yeah, they need to overcome their fears of speaking out. I'm just saying that it's just an unnecessary risk for the big bad to take. Now watch as the kids stare at each other with those big ol' eyes. Ew. You know, the box art for the original VHS tape at least looks a little more presentable, Though said art probably came from a third party, which is why the DVD version is creepier. So I'm not gonna bother remembering all the kids' names, especially when they act and sound the same, but we are introduced to Judy's two children, Lily and Pappy. And despite their status as the new kids, they do make friends rather quickly.
Oh, there you are.
Mommy, come here and see Mr. Topwell.
I think we just found the exact shot in this movie that's used as box art for later releases, just colored differently.
Mr. Topwell is a tree. That tree. She takes care of us. When I'm scared, I think about her branches like arms holding me. Then it makes me feel better.
And how does she take care of you? Does she feed you when Mavilda doesn't? Or is she like the tree from Yu-Gi-Oh! Vrains that's somehow alive? This should also be the moment when the other children explain what Mavilda does to them, but instead they make vague statements about how adults royally suck. Judy overhears this and is guilted into washing the dog that the children play with. This should prevent the dog catcher from thinking that said dog is a stray.
Look, Licorice, now the dog catcher isn't gonna bother you anymore.
Oh, I'm pretty sure the dog catcher would still go after them if they're not on a leash. Next, the children plan on building a swing set and slide on Mrs. Hopewell. But Mavilda tells Judy to stop them in her little library of giant books.
You're here to do your work first, not that nonsense.
But I have finished my work first. I did that on my spare time.
And what about cleaning?
Yes, the entire house, including the windows and waxing the floor.
You may go now.
I guess that's it. Does this make Judy suspect Mavilda of her cruelty? Nope. Instead, she just goes back to play with the children. The narration says that they spend the whole day doing this, and yet...
Children had never been so happy. They really developed a special feeling towards Judy and a relationship of trust and love.
I have just met you, and I love you.
By the way, we're only 10 minutes in, and this is a 43-minute long movie. So like before, we repeat the scene where the mayor gives Mavilda money, which is then used for playing poker. This cycle repeats itself all the way into Christmas time, and Judy was completely oblivious about Mavilda after all this time. I should also mention that we haven't heard from Ray after he started his job in the lumber yard. I wouldn't be surprised if he died or abandoned his family. Anyway, a bit of progress is made in the mayor's next visit. The money is forked over, but he asks Judy to help Mavilda spend it on clothes and presents for the children. Now that the horrible truth is closer to coming out, how will the big bad respond?
Frank? Mavilda, do you feel lucky tonight?
Do crime anyway, because fuck those kids. Judy then learns to her horror that the orphans know nothing about Christmas. Yeah, that makes sense. She then gets them up to speed about this time of year, while we keep cutting over to the poker session.
All or nothing.
The mood whiplash on her is strong. Also, even Tsunade from Naruto wasn't this bad with gambling. Oh, and what a shock. She lost. Now she can't go shopping for clothes and presents. Now how will Mavilda explain this to Judy?
I don't want the children playing outside anymore. You better make sure of that.
Because you don't want the mayor to see them without new clothes.
All right. Now you know. And now that you know, you better make sure you don't tell him a thing, or you and your children are out in the cold.
You know, you're not in any position to be making threats here. Judy has the backing of the kids, and if she's kicked out, she can just report your misdeeds since you just told her about misspending the money. But somehow her threats work. Judy is forced into silence after all this. So she has to share the bad news that no, the children won't be getting anything for Christmas. What's more, they aren't even allowed to go outside anymore. You know, Mavilda is awful, but Judy is starting to rub me the wrong way too. Her passiveness is starting to creep into complicity, which is just as big a problem.
Judy can be really big trouble for me. She's starting to know too much.
What's to say she hasn't already? You made it clear that you're an abusive wench. I'd say that's more than enough. So to cover up her misdeeds, Mavilda plans to frame Judy for theft. So she calls a guy who can help set her scheme into motion, but one of the kids overhears her. Our villain should have seen that kid snooping on her, but she doesn't.
That tree is still gonna cause me a lot of trouble. as long as it's there. Those children are going to want to be playing out there. Especially with what that woman has built around it. I gotta get rid of it also. That's what I'm going to do next.
Again, I think she just takes pleasure in ruining the lives of children just because she can. But at least the little girl can tell Judy about what she heard. Then Judy can use this information to...
Yes, tell Mrs. Mavilda. She can help you.
Are all the adults in this just that inept? Judy should have known after all these months that her boss cannot be trusted to do her job. So the girl tells her friends instead. They call Mavilda a witch while she's overhearing them. So naturally, she took that personally.
Listen here, you rascals. From now on, things are gonna be different around here.
How so? You're already shown to be a negligent caretaker who forces the kids to work without food or compensation. What, are you gonna double that now? For once, Mavilda makes a facial expression that's different from her usual one. Anyway, the kids are doomed.
Can't just stay here without doing something. What can we do? What about your mother? She's also in danger.
I don't worry about my mother because I know she can defend herself.
Oh, wait, you serious? Let me laugh even harder.
Oh, but they're more concerned for the tree than the one person who actually took care of them. Now the kids plan to ask the mayor for help, but it's too late to send out anyone because the mayor leaves at 9. He's probably home at this point, so back to despair with them.
I wish that my Christmas wish could be changed. Santa, if you are listening, I want to change my wish.
Okay, earlier we had Judy tell the kids that they could wish for stuff from Santa, but given this pose and imagery, this just makes it seem like she's praying to him. They all wish for Santa to save the tree, but because of worries about those wishes not reaching him, Pappy decides to directly deliver them to Santa.
Pappy, you gotta go now.
What? Go where?
You literally spent the last 4 minutes telling the others what you wanted to do, and now you forget? So he and Licorice take off by sleigh. Oh, and about that Judy subplot?
But I must get through.
I'm sorry, but you gotta turn around and go back. Merry Christmas, ma'am.
Nothing happens! Anyway, Pappy learns that Lily snuck aboard the sleigh to keep him company. Really, these scenes just remind me that the backgrounds look way better than the characters do in motion. But wait, the North Pole? They actually made it? That won't do. So here comes Baloo the bear! Oh, come now. Who do you think he is? Yogi Bear? Licorice starts fighting the bear, which backs the sled towards a cliff. Then the unthinkable happens. Guess that's it! And so the movie ends with Pappy calling out into the valley. What a sad conclusion to a Christmas movie. Nah, I'm screwing with you. Judy is now home and totally unaware that her children went missing. The kids then tell her about Pappy's plan, and they also tell her what Mavilda is going to do with them. So...
I must talk to Mrs. Mavilda.
No! Don't go to her! At the bare minimum, get in the car and find the mayor! But no, Judy goes to Mavilda, who promptly fires her. That only makes it easier for Judy to spill the beans. How does this make any sense? But then Judy sees Mavilda and some other guy preparing to cut down Mrs. Hopewell. The kids notice this too and are doing their best to stop them.
I'm sorry, children, but I have to do this job.
By the way, what's Mavilda gonna pay you for doing this? I doubt this will end well. This is when the mayor shows up to ask what's going on. Pappy and Licorice also return just in time, but without Lily.
Where is she?
She's gone, Mommy.
Oh, God, what do you mean?
Tell me, son, what happened to Lily?
She fell from a cliff, Mommy, Daddy. All the way down. And I couldn't find her anymore.
What are they even trying to do here? It's like an attempt at a dark moment, but we already have that from the orphans' lived experiences. And even that's poorly handled. So the kids finally tell the mayor about Mavilda's rotten behavior. And how does he respond?
Wait a minute, hold it. What happened with the money that I've been donating? Why didn't Mavilda buy toys for them?
Because she's cruel and selfish. God, you are all so frickin' stupid! But at least he's catching on to the fact that something is seriously wrong. So Mavilda has to do something.
That's what you think, children!
Seize that woman!
Stand back, you fool!
Lady, it's over. You got off on abusing these kids for far too long. It's time for jail. Or that. I guess Zeus came along with his thunderbolt.
Ho, ho, ho! Merry Christmas, everybody!
I don't like the deep voice he has. Also, he started flying into the void that is the edge of the background. Anyway, he then uses his magic to light up the tree, which looks more like an electrical surge, but whatever. We also see that Lily is alive. I guess Santa found her after all, and it looks like her teddy bear got its arm back.
Peace be with you all.
I had to. No, they get clothes. He drops presents down with parachutes, and the mayor announces that, by law, Mrs. Hopewell is to not be cut down. Judy is also the new boss of the orphanage, until Ray tells her that they'll be adopting the kids, which defeats the purpose of having an orphanage, and cuts off your main source of funds to provide for all the kids. You didn't think this through, did you?
From now on, they are going to have a father and a mother.
Oh, so you'll actually stay with them this time? And as we wind down, one has to ask, what did happen to Mrs. Mavilda?
Well, don't worry about Mrs. Mavilda. She's good now. She learned that you always win when you are good.
Wow! Way to wave off any responsibility she had for causing the trauma these kids went through. This movie is just wow! When the animation isn't being awkward in spots, it looks fine, but everything else is just wrong. From the acting, the writing, and the overall message of the movie. This feels like a story about abused children who find a human companion after relying on an inanimate one for so long. But this angle is poorly handled because said human doesn't do anything to really help them. Then the resolution of Mavilda was so unsatisfying. There's no comeuppance, and to wave away all the horrible things she did just feels awful. So really, after all this in a short movie, we have learned absolutely nothing.
We hope you've enjoyed No Moral Theater.
You know what? I'm not gonna end 2021 with a movie this wretched. So stay tuned for my next review when I finally look at Mickey's Christmas Carol.